Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show. I'm the Empath, and this is the first mind dump that I'm doing, or at least officially. Um, this is going to be a bit of a rambly series because I'm very much making it up on the spot. It's not like a game where I'm trying to complete this objective or the New Year's resolutions where I'm going off a checklist and marking down what happened in the day in relating to that checklist. This is me taking some thought that's going on in my head and expressing it, and potentially it leading on to tangents. So this could be a bit rambly of a series, but it is a mind dump. It is a little bit more personal, but I think it's something important for me to do, and maybe it helps you. So, what I came up with that I wanted to talk about for this mind dump is thoughts and feelings. I am one who I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings, but I don't express them always. At least not as well as I may like. I might express them, but not accurately, not adequately enough, not sufficiently enough. I have a lot of thoughts about certain topics um, that I don't feel get expressed well enough, or sometimes I have to express it to multiple people, multiple times. Like, one of those thoughts is on uh, things like racism. Uh, my thought is that, yes, it exists. I don't want it to exist. And the fact that I'm white does not make me racist. It makes you very racially prejudiced to assume that. I am not racist. And just because you think that my acting or behaving a certain way makes me racist, like you think that because I'm white, so I have white privilege, and I'm not going off and getting myself killed or picketing or whatever to get rights for people of color, because I'm not doing that stuff, I'm racist, then you're incorrect. I am not opposing or oppressing any people of color. I am very much for equality and for everyone's rights. And I will do what I see fit based on my life circumstances to support and advocate for that. But if you are one who you are going to label everyone as racist because that's the history, that's their ancestors did, or because these people are white, or just these people aren't 100% for your ideals and your thoughts, that's that I can't get behind that. That's not wanting equality. The people who I hear or see talking about things like that, or writing about things like that, a lot of what I see them posting or saying doesn't sound like they want to get rid of racism. It's not that they want to have equality. They want to tip the scale. They don't want for white people and people of color to be equals. They want to tip the scale so that people of color are in charge and oppressing white people. And I'm not okay with that. Not because I'm white and I want to keep my privilege, but because that's not equality. And that's just creating another problem. You're trying to solve a problem by creating a problem. You're trying to solve a conflict by creating a conflict. You're not focused on peace. You are focused on winning and ruling. And that's not how it works. When two people who are supposed to be in a situation of mutual respect and peace decide to not follow that, if even one of those people decides that that person wants to be in charge of the other, that that person is better than the other, deserves more than the other, then you're not wanting peace. You're not wanting equality. You're wanting advantage, privilege, prosperity over somebody else. You're wanting to give up somebody else's freedoms to give yourself more privileges. And that's not okay by any means. I don't care if you are already at the top or if you are at the very bottom. If you are trying to be above others, to consider yourself above others, to oppress them like out of revenge or something, I cannot get behind you. I cannot support you because that is not love. That is hate. And as I've said before, I am very much against hate. I'm all for love and I'm all against hate. So, and that's one of my thoughts. And I don't feel like I get to express that well enough because as soon as I try to express that, suddenly this person and everybody that supports that person who I'm trying to talk to and communicate with, so that perhaps that wasn't that person's intention. Perhaps that person just phrased things poorly because it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to miscommunicate what you're trying to say. So I'll try to help that person to see another viewpoint, and I'm willing to let them show me another viewpoint. But then you have everybody else who supports that person going in the comments and completely attacking and degrading me. I know because I've had it happen on numerous occasions. You are assuming. You are prejudiced. You are attacking me because you think that I am just like the rest of them. You're not trying to learn and better yourself and get the best view and the best outcome. You are trying to rally as many people as you can onto your side so that you can fight the system. You don't want peace or equality. You want anarchy. You want to be the leader of the system or at the top of the food chain. So I get into situations and I feel I can't express myself. I can't say the things that I want to say because I'm going to get talked down. I'm going to get yelled down. I'm not going to be able to say what I want to say. But if I could give some advice to myself by trying to give advice to somebody else, because I find that to be one of the best ways. Like I have an easier time giving advice to other people than I have giving it to myself. So I should try to do it as a sort of dialogue, try to talk over my own head of giving somebody else advice and then directing that advice at myself and seeing where's the problem. Because then I can understand why my advice wouldn't be taken by other people. And then I could just work on it, and then suddenly I'd have some really great advice. Because you're going to try to refute it? Well, I've already thought about that. So here's that. Okay, here's another point you're trying to refute it with. I already got that. I already got it covered. So the advice that I'm going to give is, with your thoughts, try to think it out as clearly as you can. Kind of like what I was talking about just then. Think it out as clearly as you can. Write it out if you need to, or type it up so that it's easier to edit and to rearrange. And look at it and read it and think about it and get it to the point where you are saying in as few words and as clearly as possible what your point is. You want it in as few words as possible so that the point isn't lost in 1,000 words or 1,000,000 words. You want it to be in as few words as possible so that it's easier to follow with, but you also want to make sure that it's clear, that's concise, that it can be understood. So get it to a point where you can read it and it says exactly what you want it to, so that you've covered your bases. And then if there's something that comes up where you have a thought and someone could say something that just throws your thought out the window or degrades it or basically gives you an unsatisfactory result, whatever that means for you, then use that to figure out how to do it better, how to come up with a better way to phrase things that will address it so that you can get out whatever your thought is. Because it is incredibly frustrating to not be able to express your thoughts and your opinions. So carefully think it out, write it out, type it up, and then express it. Now, granted, that doesn't work in a situation where you're like having a conversation with somebody, but do try to take the time to think about it clearly. And also make sure that you know that the people that you're talking to are going to be receptive and not just going to shut you off and be completely ignorant to whatever you have to say. Because there are people who are like that. They don't care what you have to say. It's not what they want to hear, so they won't listen to you. So you have to gauge that as well. But it is important, as best you can, to figure out how to express your thoughts and not to let yourself get dejected because other people are going to turn you down. Just figure out how to communicate your thoughts effectively. Work on it. Think about how you say things and how you express your thoughts and opinions, and get yourself to a point where you can express those and say them, and people will listen. Or get yourself to a point where you can at least say your piece, and if somebody else isn't going to be receptive at all, you can at least be comfortable enough with that. You can agree to disagree, or you can agree to just let them babble on and then just let it be done, because there are some people who, like I said, they're not going to listen and they're just going to keep on their point. And even if you're willing to listen, in a lot of cases, it's no good trying to listen to a person like that for an extended period of time, because that person isn't going to listen to you. If you want to keep going and try to understand that person as best you can and use that to adjust and to better understand your own thoughts and opinions, go for it. I highly endorse that. But if you're just going back and forth and one of you is saying black, one of you is saying white, and it's going nowhere, then don't bother. It's not. Just try to figure out how to express your thoughts. And that's a good idea. Like, for me, that's a good idea. And my concern would be people who I don't feel I can express my thoughts around. And with that, there are some times where I would say that you need to take a stand for yourself and to just express your thoughts and speak clearly and express that you need to express your thoughts. So, like, an example, like something that I would say would be, I have something on my mind and I need to say it, and I need you to let me say it. If you're not going to let me say it, then I am going to lose respect for you. Let me say my piece so that I can feel that I am being properly represented, and my thoughts and my opinions are being properly represented, and that I am being respected as an individual. So something along those lines might be something that I would try the next time I'm in a situation like that. And there are some people where that's just not going to go over well. And in that case, you know that that is a relationship that needs some work or needs some evaluation. If somebody is not willing to let you express your thoughts, your opinions, respect you as an individual, and there is not valid reason, then that person is incredibly rude, incredibly disrespectful, and your relationship with that person needs to be reevaluated. Not for not because you're doing anything wrong, but because that person isn't valuing you. And that's not okay. Now, maybe there's something that you've said or done that you need to reevaluate, a change that you need to make that will help that person to respect you and your thoughts and opinions. So there can be that, which is, again, why I say to evaluate the relationship. Is it something that you're doing, or is it all something that that person is doing? Don't assume. That's the worst thing that you can do in any situation, is to assume. Logical guesses are better, but if you are assuming, not a good idea. You make an ASS, you and me. I'm trying not to curse, so anyway. So I had a thought, and I lost a thought. Memory is something that I'm working on, and expressing my thoughts, because here I am. So there are some situations where the reason why certain thoughts aren't being, you're not being allowed to express certain thoughts and opinions is because as soon as the other person says what that person is going to say, it renders the expression of your thought or opinion a little unnecessary. Like if you are saying that you have this thing going on and you're trying to coordinate plans and ideas and thoughts, and you know everybody has this, like you're trying to coordinate around somebody else's schedule because you know that this person has a job, and you're trying to express that and how best to work things tomorrow so that your schedules are coordinated. If that person is going to stop you and say, I don't work tomorrow, then that adjusts your thought and opinion. Perhaps that reduces complications. Like if you're sharing a vehicle, well, that person, either you could go to work and that person doesn't need a vehicle, or that person could just drop you off at work. So there are situations where somebody else's thought or opinion will make it so that you don't need to say whatever yours is. If it's like about a certain circumstance or coordinating something. Sometimes they have an answer to a question that you're going to ask. So sometimes you don't need to say what you're going to say because it's already taken care of by what the other person is saying. Or maybe the other person, I don't know. Sometimes it's okay. But there are other times where you really need to be allowed to express your thoughts and your opinions. Like if you're emotionally frustrated and you're saying, you know, the other person's trying to cut you off because you're saying the same thing over and over, essentially. Sometimes you need to, like, at that point, tell them that you need to express your thought and they need to give you a moment to let you figure out what it is exactly that you're trying to say and not make you feel like you have to rush and say something because otherwise they're going to interrupt and shut you up. So keep in mind when your thoughts are something that can be addressed by what the other person is going to say, and keep in mind that you say what you're trying to say clearly and concisely. You let the other person know that you need to express this thought or opinion, and try to give yourself time. Whenever you can, however you can, try to give yourself the time that you need to say what you need to say what you mean to say. And that'll make it a lot easier for people to listen and accept what it is that you have to say. So that's what I would say about thoughts. Similarly with feelings. Personally, I don't feel that I get to express how I feel well enough. And it's because I don't get to talk about it. I don't feel that I can talk about what's going on with me, what is wrong with me, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, because if I do, people are going to shut me out, they're going to grow tired of me, and they're going to think it's the same thing every day. Well, it might be the same thing every day, but if somebody stabbed you every day, it wouldn't hurt any less. And if it did hurt less, it would be because the pain receptors are being dulled and shutting down, and that's not good. Because then you suffer pain and you don't realize that, well, there was something wrong. Pain is an indicator that something is wrong. That is more true than I initially was giving that credit for when I said it. Pain is an indicator that something is wrong. And so if you are feeling pain, it doesn't matter if it's about the same thing. It hurt you. You're not better. You need something. Even if that something is time, there's evidently something that you need. So, and let's say, even if my little stabbing thing is too much, let's say you get stabbed. No, let's even take it down, and let's say somebody punches you in the face. Well, yeah, time will heal that wound. Hopefully, time will heal that wound. Sometimes it won't. You lose a tooth, and that won't grow back, or it breaks your zygomatic arch, and so you have to have like surgery to fix it. But even if time heals that wound, it's still going to hurt until such time as it has healed. So it could hurt only for a few hours. It could hurt for as short as a few minutes, or maybe it only hurts for a few seconds. Maybe the person's not that strong of a puncher. It could hurt for a few weeks. If it's really bad, it could hurt for years. That doesn't make the pain any less significant. That doesn't make that doesn't make the pain that was caused any less significant. You still feel that pain. That event still has an impact on you. So you shouldn't be judged or criticized because you're still hurting. I mean, how ridiculous does that sound? Someone gets punched in the face, and the whole side of their face is purple and bruised and swollen. And it's, like, let's say it's really bad, it's like 5 months afterwards. And somebody's going to look at you and say, "You're still complaining because that punch hurts you?" Like, dude, that punch was 5 months ago. Get over it. Can you imagine how ridiculous that is? Or it's even worse when a situation is so bad that time isn't going to heal it. You'll adapt to it, but time doesn't heal it. You just adapt to that. You figure out how to live around it. An emotional thing would be the death of a family member. Sure, you can figure out how to go on and live around that. But every now and then, it's still going to really affect you deeply and hurt a lot. Good comparison? Let's say you get paralyzed. Your legs don't work anymore. You're living in a wheelchair. So 5 years later, somebody looks at you and like, really? You're still bummed and depressed about that? Come on. It's been 5 years. Get over it. Like, really? Someone's going to fuss at you just because it's been there. That you already brought up that that's a pain, that it hurts. Why are you still complaining about it? Because it still hurts. It is still an open wound. It has not healed. Well, it might have been healed, but it's not restored. It is not as it once was. There is still scarring. It still hurts. I'm still in pain. And just as it is with physical damage, it is that way with emotional damage. There is emotional damage and trauma that can leave emotional scars for the rest of your life. And people don't take emotional and mental damage or illness seriously enough. They shrug it off and toss it aside. They say you should get over it, get better. It's all in your head. Of course it's all in my head. And like it makes it hurt any less if I could figure out how to get over it, I would. But I can't. So unless you have an idea of how to help me get over it, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you telling me that it's all in my head, that it's in the past, to get over it. Screw you. Honestly, anyone who would talk to you like that, I am certain that there is something that hurts that person, that affects that person, that if you brought it up, it is still a scar. There are very few people around around at least my age range, and even before that, there are very few people at all, except for the very young, like elementary school, who would not have something that if you brought it up would cause an emotional response. I can guarantee you with at least 99% certainty. I won't go full 100% because there's just about always an exception to the rule. But I can give you almost 100% certainty that there is something in everybody's life, in everybody's lives, that causes emotional distress. Whether it's a family member, a pet, a lover, a abuse, loss, or maybe it was a mistake. Everybody has something that hurts, that still causes distress. You don't ever truly get over it. You learn to live around it. Now, there are plenty of things that you get over. You come to terms with it, and you're okay with it. It's fine. It doesn't cause you any problems anymore. You can be like, it happened. It's in the past. I can just about guarantee you that everybody has at least one thing, that no matter how much time passes, it will still hurt them. Or at the very least, by the time that one thing stops hurting, that person has at least one other thing that's taken its place. So don't be so judgmental and hypocritical about it. Don't tell somebody to get over it just because you're tired of hearing it. That person is in pain. That person is grieving because of something that happened, something that still causes them pain for whatever reason. And you don't know what it is. If someone was abused, of course that's going to affect that person. It's trauma. It hurts. And you say it's in the past, but that creates trust issues. Because how can you trust somebody when somebody else was so cruel as to go out and abuse you? It's like if it's some random stranger, you got mugged, then you can't just say, oh, well, that was some random stranger, so it shouldn't matter. It was a stranger. It was a random person. Which means that anybody, particularly people you don't know, anybody else could be that random stranger again and could cause that abuse again. And it doesn't help if you can't just say take a self-defense class or something, because that just means that, that doesn't mean that you've gotten over it. That means at least now you can defend yourself. You're still afraid of that situation. It still stresses you out. And then, let's say you get a broken heart. Well, you cared for that person, and that person broke your heart. So you have to try to figure out how to adjust. And do you try to make it up and go back to that person? Do you try to move on and find somebody else? If you can, how can you? How can you trust that person? How could you allow yourself to feel that same way with somebody else at the risk that that person is going to break your heart just as badly? So, there's no situation There's no situation I can come up with that anybody could give me that causes somebody emotional distress that I couldn't figure out why it would still cause that person distress. And if any situation causes someone distress, even if it's years after the fact, that doesn't mean you degrade that person and belittle that person for it. What you do is you sympathize, you empathize, you try to understand and communicate with that person. You try to help and support that person so that you could potentially help. You could potentially be the solution. You could potentially be the reason why that person doesn't feel that way anymore, gets over that pain. And don't assume that you will be that person, because that's assuming that that person's problem is small enough that you can take it. Don't assume you can be that person. Just try to be that person. Or heck, don't try to be that person so much as you just try to help that person. Don't try to be the one that fixes the problem. Just try to be the one that is there for that person to help him or her through the problem as best as you can. Don't try to fix everything. Just try to help. Even if the best way that you can help is to do nothing at all. That is one of the hardest things to do. Is when you want to help, when you want to fix things, when you want to make it better. But the best thing for you to do is nothing at all. That is so terribly difficult for just about everyone. So even if the best way for you to help is to not do anything, don't tell the person to just get over it. Don't try to be the one who's like, I can fix what's wrong with you. Just try to be there for that person in whatever way that person needs you to be there for that person. And maybe that person doesn't want you to be there for them in that way, or him or her. But maybe they need it. I'm trying not to use they or them for singular. Talk about it another day. Try to be, just don't. Help that person in whatever way that person needs. If that person needs you to do nothing, if that person needs you to listen, if that person needs you to give that person a hug, or maybe in fact that person does need you to tell that person to just get over it. Try to be what that person needs you to be. Not what that person needs somebody to be. Because you can't always be what somebody needs. But you can be what that somebody needs you to be. So try it. And not everybody is going to like what you need them to be. Soldiers don't necessarily like what they need their drill sergeant to be. But they do end up respecting what their drill sergeant was, because he was what they needed him or her to be. So in short, I guess I would say express your thoughts clearly and concisely. Be receptive to somebody else's. And if whoever you're trying to express your thoughts to is not receptive, evaluate. Maybe you weren't being clear enough. Maybe there is an issue that you have caused, something that you can address that will make that other person more receptive to you in the future. Or perhaps that person is toxic in one way or another. As for your emotions, figure out the best way to express your emotions. Say what it is that you need to say, talk about your feelings. If you have somebody that you care about, whether it's a former lover or a somebody that you care about and you want to be in a relationship with, don't just go around throwing general statements of I love you or something like that. Or even saying I need you. Don't go general. State what you're feeling. That if it's a former relationship, tell that person the things that you miss. Tell that person what it is about you that you have changed. Tell that person what that person means to you. Before you do any of that, figure out your feelings. Figure out what exactly you're feeling. Not just that you miss the person, not just that you love the person, or if it's somebody that's not in that category, maybe not just that you're angry with a person or dislike a person, but figure out exactly what it is that you are feeling and communicate that to the other person. A situation like, if I might be upset with my brother, and I might tell him, I'm upset with you because you ate food that I bought for me. It wasn't for you. You just assumed. I'm upset with you for that. I am also upset because I've had a stressful day at work. I am lonely. I am in a state of chaos because my room's a mess, the house is a mess, and I'm doing my best to tidy it, but there's only so much I can do. And sometimes I create a mess when I'm trying to clean it. And that just makes things more chaotic and frustrates me. And there's so much time that will pass when I'm trying to do something, and the time's just gone, and I don't have time to do anything. And so I'm upset about that. So I am upset with you. But not all of my frustration is towards you. Just that much. So I will try to make sure that I will only direct at you as much as you deserve. Not everything that I'm feeling towards everything else. That's an idea. That is an example. Identify what you're feeling, why you're feeling, and express that. And maybe, if you don't feel you can express that to the other person, go over it over and over until you are absolutely certain that you have identified what you're feeling and why. And then think about what you can do to address it. Maybe it's a personal change. Maybe it's talking with somebody else to let that person understand. Maybe to try to convince or help that person to a change or adjust a behavior. Maybe it's to let somebody know how you feel and to take a risk, even if it could jeopardize things. But depending upon what you're going through, sometimes you have to think, what's more worth it? Is it worth it to jeopardize things in hopes of fixing them? Or to keep it to myself? And maybe it will fix itself, or maybe I'll just be broken. So think about that. I think that is, for now, about as much as I have to say for this mind dump. The rest I know for a fact would be rambling. And even though I stated at the beginning, this is going to be kind of a rambly series, I don't want to ramble if I can help it. So I will try to cut myself off when I think I have said as much as I can usefully say without going into excessive rambling. Because at that point it is entirely for me and gives you just about no benefit, at least as far as I can see. So if you did watch this far, thank you for watching. It means a lot to me. go ahead and like and favorite if you enjoyed. Uh, if you want to be one of my VIPs, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all next time. Have a great day.